Hey everybody, it's Robin from Roaming with Rover. Thank you for joining me today. Today what we're talking about is hashtag unpopular crochet opinions. So as you know, I put out a video about a week or so ago, apparently 2 weeks ago, and I asked the question, what unpopular crochet thing do you actually enjoy? So in mine, I answered reading through the pattern before I start a project. I I know some people just jump in there and go, and I want to know what is ahead of me. I want to know what stitches I need. Sometimes there's stuff in there I don't know, or maybe I just don't understand the um, terminology they're using. And when I look up the stitch, I'm like, oh yeah, I know how to do that. So I just like to know all of that kind of stuff before I start a project. So what I want to do today is read through some of the answers that you guys gave me in the comments to that video. And let's talk about them, okay? And then at the end, I'm going to tag some people to do the same thing. Now, people have found this a little bit confusing. I did the same thing the first time I saw it. This isn't like, oh, yeah, I like doing that. It's not kind of a sarcasm thing. It's things that you truly enjoy doing that many people do not. That's how this is supposed to work. And I did the same thing. I messed it up when I answered it on someone else's video. I was tagged by Dana from Dana's Wanderlust Crochet, and I will tag somebody else at the end of the video. So let's just go through the comments and see what we have here. Karen JSP responded that she enjoys using some of the novelty yarns to edge her knitting or weaving. Sometimes the novelty yarns don't really have enough yardage to make a project, but make a really pretty border. And you are absolutely right. Some of those yarns, they're very, very small amount of yarn in a skein or in a hank. I hate using them. I won't use them. They are absolutely beautiful on the projects. And I can even remember seeing like a Christmas blanket with some of that white fur stuff on the edge. Gorgeous. I'm not doing it. I can't see the stitches. I can't see what I'm working with. I did not enjoy those. So good on you for that. I bet your makes are gorgeous. 8 Smiley Lady says she loves making amigurumi and pineapple doilies with a bigger hook than is recommended for cotton thread. That's a really good idea. The smaller the hook, the smaller it is the harder it is to see those things. I give you praise for being able to work with the amigurumis. I've tried a couple of times, and sometimes I enjoy it, but most times I don't. So I would love to see some of your projects. That's great. Linda Coulter said, thank you for sharing. She doesn't like yarn barf. And I'm right there with you. Sometimes yarn barf doesn't bother me, but if it's over and over and over when you're working in a project, that's quite annoying. If it's just one big yarn barf, you know, when you first start and you pull that middle thing out of the skein, that one doesn't bother me so much because it's usually pretty easy to untangle. But if you're pulling and every little while it's tangling up like that, I don't like that at all. Me, you, and yarn, who is Cheryl. Hi, Miss Cheryl. Thank you for responding. Whether knitting or crocheting, if I'm making a garment, I will always make a gauge swatch. That's really important, and I'm right there with you. I don't like making gauge swatches. I don't know anybody who does, and I'm not sure if you're telling me you do enjoy making them, but I always make them with a garment. I think it's super important, and I always make them with a kit. If I've bought a kit to do something, I make a gauge swatch with the kit because I want to make sure I've got enough yarn. They don't usually send you a whole lot of extra. Verna Bradshaw says, I like working with thread yarn, like the Hobie Twister, where it's 3 or 4 actual individual strands of, I guess it's yarn, but it seems more like string. So they give you 3 or 4 individual string, and then you gotta crochet with it. And a lot of people will put a bead on that to kind of keep it together. She says she doesn't use a bead, she just goes. So I'm glad to hear that because I haven't worked with that yet, and I know using a bead is a trick that a lot of people will tell you about. So that's good to know that you do enjoy that, and it's possible to do. Lefty Crochets and Mirror Knits. That's an interesting name. I want to learn more about you. She doesn't, yarn barf doesn't bother her. She doesn't mind dealing with it. And this is amazing to me. She says, I like using multiple strands held as one project and have used up to 7 strands of yarn held at once, both to knit and crochet. Wow, that's amazing to me. I've used 2 at a time.
Okay, Joe.
I can't imagine using up to 7. Just dealing with that many different skeins of yarn must be a mess. Wow, that's really interesting. That's cool. Denise Hudson says she does not mind frogging a project if she realizes she's made a mistake. She says it'll help her do better next time. I don't like frogging. I do if I see the mistake fairly recently, not 5 or 6 rows back, and especially if it doesn't affect the project. I'm probably not going to take it out. If it's for someone else, I'm much more likely. If it's for me, probably not. But I probably should do it more. Good for you. Evelyn Merkel says, when I make a mistake, I always rip it back to the correct, no matter where it is. The person who taught me said, it's okay to make mistakes. It's not okay to leave them in your work. So, yeah, you're right. Your work will look much better. Sue or Mama Sue says she enjoys sewing in the ends when her project is finished. I don't hate sewing in ends. It's not my favorite thing. And it's not that I don't like sewing in ends. It's my concern that they're going to wiggle their way out afterwards. I actually avoid making color changes in projects because I don't like the fear that the ends are going to come undone if I give it to somebody. And a lot of that has to do with the kind of yarn you're using. The one project that I made, and I do know how to do it appropriately, but when I made my temperature blanket, those ends pop out all the time, no matter what I've done with them. And I would have been really upset if I'd have given that as a gift to somebody with those ends popping out all the time. So, but I don't go out on my way to make stuff that I know is going to have a lot of ends. Doris Artman says, I really do love untangling yarn. I find it relaxing, and to wind it up, I find that relaxing. And also weaving in ends is relaxing. And I kind of get that. It's mindless. You're not thinking so much. So I can see, especially if you're working on a difficult pattern, I can see how that would be relaxing. Denise Sherlock says, I enjoy doing amigurumi. Most people seem to make hats, scarves, shawls, and blankets. I live in Central Florida where it's hot all year round, and so those are not practical for me. I get that, having lived in Texas for 2 years. And my some of my grands live in Texas, so it's like I can't send them hats and scarves and mittens and things like that. So I get that. So amigurumi is your go-to on that. So good for you. I'd like to see what some of your makes. Sharon Sutcliffe says, I made a hedgehog with tinsel yarn. Oh my gosh. And it was a nightmare. I did preserve, but it was hard going. Yeah, that sounds awful. It's in the bag with Darla. She says it doesn't bother me to frog a project. And again, I'll frog a little bit, but not a whole lot. Unless it really affects your count, or, you know, sometimes when you're doing something that's got a real kind of intricate pattern, you got to frog back those mistakes. That's just all there is to it. And thankfully, with crochet, frogging is usually pretty easy. When you're trying to unknit something, they call it tink. When you're trying to tink something, not fun. Karen Young says, and I'm not entirely sure what she's talking about, a lot of people do not like to use a finger needle to crochet a bookmark, as it pokes your fingers and is troublesome to count the stitches. But I don't mind. I don't know what a finger needle is. If anybody knows the answer to that, I would really enjoy A finger needle to make a bookmark. Nope, no idea. If anybody knows what that is, I'd love you to put it in the comments down below. Kathy Bologna says, I love untangling yarn barf and sewing in ends. It's relaxing to me. Good for you. Leslie Hatton says she does not like finding knots in the skeins as she's crocheting. Again, I don't think any of us like that. Angel Parker. I know some people do not like working with any yarn under a 4 weight. I like how DK works up. Yeah, I don't mind the 3 weights. In fact, I don't think there's any weight of yarn that I don't enjoy working with. Everything has its own use, and I haven't found any weight that I don't enjoy working. Different kinds of yarn I don't enjoy working with some, but the different weights don't bother me either. I guess some people have a lot of problem with arthritis in their fingers, and it is hard to hold the smaller crochet hooks. So I do get that. I understand that. Crafty Critter Christina says she likes sewing in ends. I'm glad somebody does. My dear friend Pinky Jean says, since this is about yarn, I got nothing. She doesn't play with yarn a whole lot, but she does. She crochets. I've seen some very pretty bookmarks that she makes. Vicki Davis, I don't mind yarn barf. It doesn't bother me. Saf Stitches, I know lots do enjoy amigurumis, and a lot of people do not. I really do enjoy them. Another one that I like is using homespun yarn. See, I was talking about different kinds of yarn. A lot of people don't enjoy the homespun. Some people call it hellspun yarn. I've not used it yet, so I can't answer that. I've got some. It's ready for a project. She also enjoys using chenille yarns and velvet yarns. Again, those are ones I'm not using. When the eyelash yarns first came out, I crocheted a scarf for one of my friends, and I let her pick out the yarn, and the colors were beautiful, sort of a blue and black mix. So I'm using eyelash yarn, very dark colors. It was horrific. I'm sure it's full of mistakes, but who could see? And I gave it to her, and I said, I will never use this yarn again. And I did not. Chris the Yarnaholic says she doesn't mind yarn barf. So there's a few of you out there that the yarn barf is not a problem for, and that's good. Like I said, I don't mind it. Unless there's a lot of it in a project. If it tangles and tangles and tangles while I'm trying to work on a project, then that is quite annoying to me. I was trying to find, I know a couple people put notes in my community page. Lady Crafter's Fiber Creation says she doesn't mind weaving in ends because she crochets over them as much as possible. And I do that too. When I go to a different row or something, I'll do my best to crochet, but you still get that little tiny bit sticking out, and you have to do something with that. So that's it. That's the comments that I received on my video about Unpopular Crochet Opinions. And so now I'm going to tag Amber from Fostering Crochet, Dina from Dina's Homespun Fun, and Bella, I'm going to say this wrong, Bella Unchinito. I think that's right, Bella Unchinito. And I believe that means that she loves to crochet. I think that's what that means. So you guys, what I need you to do is, or what I'd like you to do, is make a video asking people to give you their unpopular opinions. So it's things that they enjoy doing that a lot of people do not. And then afterwards, after a bit, you've got a few comments, then go back and read your comments and talk about them. Thank you guys so very much for joining me. I appreciate your time. If you enjoyed today's video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you enjoy my content, I'd sure enjoy it if you would subscribe. Thanks so much. Bye-bye now.